Overall, I had just come out of 2 hip operations. And before that, I'd had 3 lots of knee surgery. So I was really suffering with pain and just really unhealthy unfitness and really not in the right kind of state of mind either. So when I came out of the 2nd hip operation, I got in touch with Christian. To be honest, the hip replacements were a godsend. Before that, I'd spent over nearly 4 years being unable to get around properly. So I lived in pain for 3 or 4 years. I wasn't active. I stopped all sport. I was still going to the gym, but it was just for pain relief. So once I'd had the 2 hip operations and basically became pain-free, it was a matter of then using that opportunity to just rebuild, to be honest. Christian had been in touch, he'd been in touch and I'd come across what he was doing just before the 2nd operation. So it kind of spurred me into thinking, okay, what can I do once I'm out of recovery? From the point of view of being tired all the time, obviously not being also in pain, not being in the best of moods. I didn't do very much at the weekends. It was just about resting, to be honest. So I wasn't as active as I wanted to be. Going anywhere with the family was a problem because I couldn't go more than 100 meters. So it had a really big impact on the family. It was impacting the job more from a state of mind perspective, really. I travel a lot. I was still traveling to the US, but I was exhausted through travel. But it was also concentration levels were not there. I wasn't sleeping, so I wasn't giving it the job the full attention. It was taking me probably 2 or 3 times longer to do something than it should have done. I was trying sort of like relaxation. I was still going to the gym just to really make myself feel as though I was doing something, but I hadn't really focused correctly. I'd probably focused on everything but what I should have been focusing on. It was definitely a prison. It was stopping me from doing what I used to do. 5 years, 6 years before that, I was still pretty active. I was still playing sport. I did a lot, with my kids. And all of a sudden that just deteriorated over 5 years. They lost access to the dad that wanted to play football with them on holiday and could get up and run around and chase them about when they were younger. I missed my youngest probably early teenage years, from 9, 10 up to what is now 16, nearly 17. So yeah, I missed out. I felt like I missed out, having to watch them just kicking a ball around on their own because I can't physically get up and do it, or play tennis with them, or go on a bike ride with them, or go running. Yeah, it was tough. The program I wasn't sure what to expect. It wasn't what I expected. It's allowed me to learn a lot about what I can do and what I can't do from a physical perspective and a understanding what I'm eating, when I'm eating, but also to start to focus and measure what I was doing, and actually start to trust my body again. Trust my body and trust my mind. So that's been probably the 2 major things. Because of the pain that I've been in over the last 5-6 years, it is like a complete rediscovering for me at the moment. And that's why this was the right time to do this program as soon as I was able to after the operation. Because otherwise, it would have been, I'll give it 3 months, I'll give it 6 months, and I would have probably fallen back into old habits. But while I was convalescing, I had time off work. It allowed me to just kickstart straight into it. It was my conscious decision to do what I was doing, and I think it was me pushing myself and not just being told what to do. So I think it's being given that framework and working on it instead of just going into a gym and doing what you think is right, or continuing that over a longer period of time within the diet that you think is right for it, and actually discovering it for yourself. But while discovering, being given direction to where you should be going, but not being told this is what it is. I think that's a huge difference, massive difference. It was probably was it 2 or 3 weeks in, a couple of weeks in, very early on, when I was asking specific questions and I wasn't getting the answers. I was told that that will come, and I think that's when I knew that it was the right one, because it wasn't a program that was going to be laid out in front of you. It was going to be a program that allowed you to lay it out in front of you. So that was a big difference. Almost just being called out for that first time. I think I wouldn't have learnt and allowed myself to learn what I've learned over the last 12 weeks if it had been put in front of me. It's been more thought-provoking, and it has been a lot for me, and the most important thing for me has been about changing perception and changing the way that you think about things, and also being allowed the time to actually think about what you're doing and actually write that down and understand what it is. I think I've not done that before. I think taking that time out for myself, once or twice a week, whatever it was, and actually just thinking and putting things down on paper has made a big difference, a huge difference. And that kind of conclusion and review on a weekly basis, and being able to discuss that as well on a weekly basis, has been a real benefit. I think it's just thinking more about myself, to be honest, if I think of it that way. I don't think my thinking has changed. I've just changed the priority of it. So instead of it being work first, second, third, then my family, then anything else, and then me, it's now probably gone completely full circle, where it is me first, then it's the family, and then it's work. So it's made me think about how I prioritize things and why. The benefit is I am a lot more active. We're doing more things, we're going out more. I think my general kind of demeanor, personality, I'm less grumpy. I get less agitated. I'm sleeping more, which means we're spending more time together in the house, not just out the house, instead of being in all three of us in different rooms. So I think it's that whole access to the family that you sometimes just don't realize you've lost when you're working, concentrating on work so much. That's been brilliant. I mean, that's like a complete change around. Some of the coaching stuff that was reasonably surprising, that was the values, when we looked at values. And I knew what my values were, but they weren't in my day-to-day life. I talked about my biggest value being my family, but it wasn't, not in reality. And I talked about one of the least of my values being my work, but that appeared very low down in the list. So yeah, it was actually just stopping and taking time to think about that order. I would say Christian is understanding, driven, focused, educational, and fun. The first couple of times I was struggling with certain things, and Christian just said, okay, try it this way, try it that way. Don't have to put pressure on yourself, or if you feel pain, stop, listen to your body. So that's what I did. So that was good direction, because I've got a habit of, and in the past, pushing too hard, too early, and actually doing more damage. So yeah, it helped through that. Those adjustments were good. It's now just balancing up what I'm doing day to day. There's no, for me now, that stigma and pressure of, I have to go to the gym, I have to do this on this day, and I have to do that. And now it's kind of, some days I'm going twice a day, just doing completely different exercises, and actually just going because I'm enjoying it. There's no panic anymore like there would have been previously, which would have just resulted in me doing the wrong thing from a physical point of view, and just not thinking about just the simple things that I can do. I think when I'm looking at numbers, I think being lighter in weight than I was 20 years ago, I think out with that is actually what I feel. It's probably more important than that. I think the result, if I hadn't felt this way, I wouldn't have been able to do what I've done from the point of view of diet and exercise, and actually going out at lunchtime in the pouring rain for a walk. Actually, not because I need to do the exercise, but just to get a clear head. I wouldn't have done things like that in the past. So I think that's obviously one of the biggest things is the weight loss. The bigger thing for me is the state of mind that's come with that, and actually what I'm going to do next. What's the next 12 weeks going to bring, and What do I focus on there? Again, it's just more energy. You know, I sleep better. I'm not throwing myself out of bed at 6 o'clock in the morning to get to the gym. I'm getting up when I'm comfortable. I'm happy when I'm getting up. I changed my working hours. I've changed the way I think about when I work, when it can be done and when it doesn't need to be done, and the balance of time I spend with my family. It's been very selfish over the last 12 weeks, completely, but it hasn't been selfish in the respect of I've completely blocked my family out. I've done this all on my own. It's just been selfish in I've been thinking about me and actually what this means to me and putting that first, and everything else really falls into place behind that. I mean, when I first sat down with Christian, he said, "Who are you doing this for?" And I said, "Well, it has to be for me. It's for nobody else." And I think I've never been the person that's done self-care very well, even from a 20-minute walk in the day or stopping to think about what I'm doing and why I'm doing it. And I think that selfishness has to come, because otherwise you're just going to run every part of what is in your life into the ground at some point, because without that self-care you can't look after everybody else or do what you want to do. From that perspective, you're just pushing things away. It's definitely worth it. I couldn't have thought of putting the investment in anywhere else. I've paid for personal trainers before in the past. I've done that, but not to the result of this. I would recommend that investment to anybody.